How you doing? Today's video is, will I be an addict for life? Can you truly shed that addict identity, or is it going to be a life sentence? I think this is the same story or the same set of thinking that when people talk about themselves being alcoholics for life, it's the same thing, right? It depends on how you see yourself, on what you think, and what you think about yourself, and what you think about your journey, and what you think about the alcohol in general, your alcohol. And the labels that you accept they're going to be the conscious bias that pushes you in a certain direction when you're thinking about what you can do and what you can't do, right? This is all about your self-efficacy, what you think in terms of the tools, the mental tools that you have in your toolbox to be able to do different things in your life, right? So the way this works is you set yourself up with an identity, and that means you separate it out, you elevate it up. So you hear people all the time talking about themselves as an alcoholic, and they prioritize that behavior above everything else, or they prioritize that part of their identity, or that particular identity. And, and sometimes they celebrate it and they worship it. You hear people, like the alcoholic thing is you get your year token, your 10-year token, whatever it is, right? And like I said, when you listen to some people, how they talk about their alcoholism, some people will talk about, I've heard people saying to me, well, you're not a real alcoholic, and real in capital letters usually when they're typing out in the comments. I'm sure they wouldn't be shouting at me in my face saying, you're not a real alcoholic, but it is what it is, right? When you look at things from that perspective, it is what it is. But for me, the true test is not happening. True test of how you react to things. This all comes down to the labels that you use are going to distinguish the way that you react to things in life. When times are good, this is not going to really do you any damage. I don't think so. I think it's only when the true test happens when times are when you're having times of stress or anxiety, you've got problems in your life that you can't really solve. And if you've been drinking for a number of years, right, you're likely to have been using alcohol as a tool to change your emotions, right, from unrelaxed to relaxed, right, from stressed to not stressed, from anxious to less anxious, right? So even after you stop drinking, your mind is still operating under that same wiring, right, unless you deliberately go out of your way to change it. So there's a big possibility that under stress your mind is going to push a thought into your head, right? A thought into your stream of thoughts saying, oh, do you know what? A drink might not be a bad thing. It's happened to me before. It's happened to me many times. It used to happen to me quite a lot when I was a drinker, right? Obviously. And it still happened to me a lot when I first stopped drinking. It hasn't happened in a long time. But the point is that if you see yourself as an addict or an alcoholic, you're going to see any thought of alcohol, any time that your brain starts to deliver this thought of maybe this is a possibility in your life, you're going to see that as a threat, right? It's, I suppose it comes down to that one drink thing, right? Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. All it takes is that one drink, right? Something like that, right? I don't know. But for these people, these thoughts are then a confirmation of their disease, their alcoholism. It's their old addiction that's, again, rearing its ugly head. And, what are you going to do then, right? Fear for your sobriety, fear for, these thoughts, I don't know where this is coming from. This is my disease coming back. I better go to a meeting. Now, because I don't call myself an alcoholic or an addict, when I have that thought of having a drink, I understand that my brain is just using that as a suggestion, right? It's not thinking, it's not telling me that I have to, it's not forcing me to have a drink. It's not telling me that I have to have a drink because I've got a disease or, because I'm an alcoholic or any of those things. It's telling me to have a drink to solve that problem that I'm having now, because that was something that I used to do in that same situation, right? It's not often now that I get any thoughts like that about alcohol, right? But it's only because my brain has got used to me laughing those thoughts off and just pushing them aside and going, yeah, there's no chance of that happening. So now if I'm thinking about kind of an instance where I do that, it's when I have those instant gratification ideas about, when I've got like an emotional response to something, it's always to go to the store or, to get some cakes or a chocolate bar or biscuits, that kind of stuff. And, sometimes I indulge that, not often, because I know that if I buy a packet of biscuits and I try and have one, I'm going to eat the whole pack and then I'm going to feel crap the next day. But it's the same thing. For me, alcoholism is part of that identity. We've been talking about this on the channel a lot recently, about the drinker's identity, and it's just a different side of that drinker's identity. It's like you're holding on to the drinker yourself without the alcohol. A lot of people call that the dry drunk. So the addict is an identity, the alcoholic is an identity. So it's just a way of thinking about things. You don't have to think that way. You don't have to, it's not how you think, it's not the thought that pops into your head, it's how you respond to these things. So do you want to know when you can truly shed that addict identity, that alcohol identity? The only time you're going to do it is when you stop thinking about yourself in that way, right? You've got a choice every time one of these thoughts pops into your head. Anytime that you think to yourself, or you need a drink, or any stupid thoughts about alcohol, just to say to yourself, either, yeah, I'm an alcoholic and it proves I'm an alcoholic, or it's just a stupid thought, I'm not going to do that, and put it aside and move on. And, unless you do those things, you're never going to move on for it. You're always going to, and there's a lot of problems with calling yourself an alcoholic or an addict that's outside of that, right? Because if you think you're diseased in one part of your life, then, if you think there's faulty genes in one part, then what's to stop you from transferring that out and thinking that you've got faulty genes in other parts of your life? Just saying. Take care. Onwards and upwards, bye now.